Are they? I think when I say that I'm not a happy camper, I'm not just saying it for myself out of self-pity. I think I speak for probably millions of other people. And it's not just because there's another global crisis going on, which obviously makes people very unhappy and scared, of course, and everything like that. But it's not just because, well, I do represent that, but it's almost like the world has decided to give us something really to cry about, because we're crying about things in our lives which we shouldn't be crying about, really. As speaking in the West, anyway, as a Westerner, people of other parts of the world have got a lot more to cry about, sort of ordinarily. Anyway, we do live in extraordinary times as far as the West is concerned. And it's sort of, culture of entitlement. We kind of think, why is the West, suffering like this? It's not fair, but it's entirely fair and entirely in keeping with the world of the demiurge, who takes with one hand and gives with the other. And that's it, get over it sort of thing. Um, but when I consider my own unhappiness, when I'm at my lowest point, or I have been at my lowest point recently, I ask myself the question, as if there wasn't a global crisis to worry about, what more do you want from life? And this, I think, is a very, very good question, and it needs to be answered, and you need to do something about it once you've come up with an answer. So if in fact you do want more from life and more from yourself, then you're going to have to do something to redefine yourself and redefine your life and explore new pastures and go on to new things in life. And as I say, it might call for a total, redefinition of who you are and what you do and what you think and the people that you meet. And it's pretty logical, really. I mean, if you're fat, then go on a diet, go to the gym, eat healthy. If you haven't got a lover, then go out and meet people. Be more lovable, be more loving, and then love in, love out, kind of thing. Put love in to the love energy in, love energy out, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? So enlightened self-interest is the basis of life on this planet. Um, uh, got no money? Well, work harder or go back to school, change your job, change your career, find some other way of get a business plan, find some other way of making more money. And it's true what Wolf on Wall Street, good movie. He says that money is good to have. Because you can use money to do lots of things, and if you want to save the lesser spotted owl, you can use your money for that. With AJ Rawlings, multimillionaire, but she uses her money to help disadvantaged kids with education, things like that. All good, and money is energy. So you might as well have it as not have it, kind of thing. Um, so if you're going to go for redefinition, and you want more love and more money and more fitness, more health, then you've got to go for these things. There's no doubt about it. If you don't play the game, you won't win. If it's absolute impossibility. You're going to win the sweepstakes unless you enter them. You know what I mean? So all this is kind of there's not much kind of soul searching or belly button watching. When you consider what more do you want for life? If you want more, go out and get more. Um, Obviously you'll be challenged along the way, but if you keep persisting, you'll get what you want. And or is it what you need? You know, because the problem is with all this is on one hand, yes, I agree with that, but perhaps in this world there is an argument for being content with who you are and what you have, rather than wanting more of yourself or wanting more out of life. And such a person who's seeking or cultivating contentment, will definitely go within or go without, as they say. And you'll go into meditation, or you'll contemplate God, You'll do your pranayama, which means breath awareness or breath control, and you'll do all that kind of stuff. You'll seek peace within, calmness within. You'll do your spiritual exercises. You'll read the Gospels to immerse yourself in the cosmology and theology of Gnosticism, which is very comforting to a lot of people, very sort of satisfying as well, which puts everything into a grand perspective, as it were. And you'll live simple, live a simple life that others might simply live, which is true enough. And be content. But the biggest thing, really, is to decide to do one or the other, or both. But we'll come on to that at the end. I mean, you've got to do one or the other. You've got to decide to be content, or to redefine yourself and get more out of life. But don't fall between the two stools. And through non-commitment to either side, or indecision, you just go into negativity, into resentment, aggression, depression, frustration. Sometimes, if one word were to sum up my life, I often feel frustrated. Frustration is a big part of my life. And I do really think it's because I fall between two stools. I don't go out into the world, and I don't go into myself. So I don't go anywhere. I just go into negativity. And I think that maybe there is a link or a balance between being in the world and not of the world, going within and seeking answers without. You can achieve a balance between those things, perhaps. Not a very good balance, but a sure balance. I do think, though, that you can get obsessed with money, obsessed with the way you look, obsessed with having lovers, obsessed with being something more than you are, and forging your own destiny, become obsessed with that, or just obsessed with having more and more and more, and not being able to afford it, which is a disastrous state to be in. So maybe it's possible to balance between going within and being in the world, being in the world but not of the world, for sure. But regularly going within and contemplating God and contemplating the divine is very important for everyone to do. But certainly you've got to make a decision about it. You either try to balance the two extremes, if you will, or you choose to go into contentment and not into the world, or you choose to go into the world and redefine yourself, perhaps using contemplation as a way of grounding yourself whilst you're being in the world, for sure. But don't not do anything. don't not do either. Make a decision. Krisis, in Greek means decision. It means crossroads. Because if you just stand there, not knowing whether to go left or right, the world's going to pass you by. And you're going to go into frustration, resentment, aggression, and all the rest of it. So I asked myself again the question, what more do you want out of life? This is an important question to answer, and if you're going to answer it honestly, then you've got to do something about it rather than not doing anything about either. So either go or you don't go, but don't just stand there saying, I don't know whether to go forwards or not to go forwards. Do you know what I mean? There's a great film called Valkyrie, which is about the assassination attempt on Adolf Hitler, and this guy von Strassenberg, and one of the generals says to von Strassenberg, I hear you're critical of the war. And he said, I'm not critical of the war so much as I'm critical of indecision, meaning actually coded word for let's decide to get rid of Hitler because he's insane, and he'll kill us all. which is right, and you'll destroy Germany, which is also right. So we've got to liquidate. So indecision, we've got to make a decision about getting rid of Adolf Hitler. So he said, I'm critical of indecision. And so if there's one thing that you should be critical of within yourself is a sense of indecision on one hand and non-commitment on the other. Because if you're not going to be committed to anything that you decide to do, I suppose it's even worse than not deciding to do something. So non-commitment is a little bit worse than indecision, because hopefully you're going to make a decision one day, and then part two is to commit to that decision, commit to seeing it through. Come what may, and whatever challenges are in your way, you're going to overcome those challenges. Whatever you decide to do, whether you decide to go into contentment, or whether you decide to go into the world and make something of yourself and redefine yourself, blah 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 blah, and take responsibility for your actions as well, because obviously there'll be consequences to not going forward and consequences to trying to go forward, right? And you can't make an omelette without breaking eggs. You have a business plan. Your business plan is a gamble. Every business plan is a gamble by definition. You go into the stock market, you're just gambling with money that doesn't exist. Everything is never comes down to earth. The chickens never do come home to roost on the stock market. So you're either going to join that rat race, and play the game to the full, or you're going to not play the game, that game, or play another game instead. So basically, I think if I was to look at myself, and I speak not just for myself but for millions of other people, to make a decision and commit to it is what the moral of the story is, I think, here. But on balance, the Gnostic would prefer to cultivate contentment and a life of contemplation and a life of going within, because for sure, there are less consequences to going within than there are going into the world all guns blazing. But then again, how great is the adventure? You could say, I'm just going to go for it. And if I come a cropper, I'm either going to, pick myself up, dust myself off, start all over again, or I'm going to die in the attempt, sort of thing. So it's all or nothing kind of thing. And I mean, a life of contentment is not without its consequences either, because you are pulled into this world through various agencies and through various circumstances, and it is a very difficult life. The life of the contemplative life. It has its own challenges, has its own cons, has its own flaws even. Working within this particular dimension of the demiurge, not least because the demiurge doesn't like you to not play the game, or to play the game on your own terms, which is what going within actually means. You're playing the game on your own terms and not on the terms of the world. But of course we are connected to the world. No man is an island unto himself, and so therefore everything that you do has a consequence. Even if you choose to do nothing, that has a consequence. But on the psychological level, what I'm saying is, don't, make a decision, and stick to it. I mean, maybe sometimes you can go in for a bit of worldliness, okay, and don't feel guilty if you do. But on balance, going within is better than being in the world, but with the perspective, with having a proper perspective all the time, keeping that, retaining perspective on life, whether it's a life of a recluse or a life of a socialite, and ultimately, you realise that the seed of being a socialite lies in reclusiveness, and the seed of being a reclusive lies in being a socialite. The yin yang kind of. Which is how this world the demiurge operates. Yin yang and the two fishes is this world. This is how it works, and everything has cons and pros, and everything has flaws and great things about and great superlative things about it. So, and everything is relative to everything else. So as long as you remember all these things, all well and good. But, don't stand at the crossroads not doing anything. I mean, don't stand in a funk of crisis, in a funk of indecision and non-commitment. Because that really is suffering. I think that probably defines what suffering is, or at least for me anyway. Maybe it's different for you, but I think that defines suffering. Because when I ask the question, what more do you want from life? Then if you won't answer that question, and you won't do anything about the answer that you give yourself, then you're going to suffer, aren't you? You're going to be in a world of pain. And that's just the reality of this life. And you can't escape making a decision, and you can't escape making commitment to things. You can live in every kind of fantasy world you want, but sooner or later, the chickens are going to have to come home to roost, and you're going to hit bottom. You're going to hit the ground. Are you going to be wearing a parachute, or are you not going to be wearing a parachute? Obviously. That's something to question, as a valid question to ask. But certainly you will hit the ground. So it's a matter of how you're going to hit the ground that's going to make you happy or sad, basically. Now you may say, well, I don't care about being happy. I don't care about suffering. But you see, you do really. And because you care about suffering, and about your own suffering, you're going to put that suffering onto other people, and then that's when unkindness comes into it, because you're going to project all your frustration onto other people. That's absolute given, and then you're going to be nasty for other people to live with. You're going to be a pain in the ass for other people, and that's when it becomes unfair to others, as well as to yourself. So I am critical of indecision within myself, and I am critical of non-commitment. So being in the world, okay, get on with it. Being content within yourself, okay, get on with that. But get on with something anyway.